I love books. Reading them, feeling them, organizing them, even the smell of them. Creating this series on furries is a lot like Alice in Wonderland. You fall in, usually by accident, and then you find all these funny talking animals. Or, as Alice puts it,
"It was much pleasanter at home," thought poor Alice, "when one wasn't always growing larger and smaller, and being ordered about by mice and rabbits. I almost wish I hadn't gone down that rabbit hole. And yet it's rather curious. You know, the sort of life. I do wonder what can have happened to me. When I used to read fairy tales, I fancied that kind of thing never happened. And now here I am in the middle of one. There ought to be a book written about me. That there ought."
Alice obviously did have a book written about her. It ended up being banned in several places and several times. Banning books for containing talking animals is culturally effed. Alice in Wonderland, or Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, was published in 1865. The book was banned in China in 1931 for the portrayal of anthropomorphized animals. The government censor, General Ho Chien, believed that human language from animals was an insult, probably due to his intelligence, and if children learned to think about humans and animals on the same level, it would be, quote, disastrous to their society. Alice was also banned in the land of free speech, the United States of America, in the 1960s. Mostly for its drug references, it was later unbanned in the 1970s because everyone was more relaxed. It was banned again by the New Hampshire School Board in the 1990s because it was said to promote sexual fantasies and masturbation. But really, what doesn't? In 1923, Austrian author Felix wrote Bambi, A Life in the Woods, about an orphaned deer. He would later sell the rights to American director Sidney Franklin for $1,000. Franklin sold it to Disney and made a massively successful film. This book was banned in Nazi Germany in 1936 because, well, Nazis. Felix Salten was Jewish, so any work done by a Jewish author was to be burned in the country. The act of book burning can also be called a biblioclasm, or libricide. After Germany annexed Austria, Felix fled to Switzerland where he would live out the rest of his days. He also sold two other stories to Disney, though significantly less famous ones, Perry, which became a film in 1957, and The Hound of Florence, which became The Shaggy Dog in 1959. And later, a Tim Allen movie. When someone bans your book, at least someone's talking about it. In 1943, Animal Farm came out, which has criticized both capitalist and communist societies. It was in turn banned by both of them. It was banned in the US for being too communist, and it was banned in the USSR and many other communist countries for being anti-communist. It was eventually released in a lot of these countries, but is heavily censored in countries like China and Vietnam, and is still full-on banned in countries like Cuba or North Korea. In order to have made it as an author, your book should probably be banned somewhere, or everywhere. In the 1960s, James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl was banned all over the place. James and his ragtag team of anthropomorphic arthropods has been cited as being too violent, sexual, racist depictions and representations of alcohol and drug use, and did I mention sexual? He did ride around in a giant peach after all. But let's not forget there are lots of books that are not banned. Dozens of them. That book's not banned. That book's not banned. That book's not banned. That book's not, actually that book might be banned somewhere, but there are tons of books that I want to mention, but they weren't really banned anywhere, so they don't really fit into the episode. Wind of the Willows, Fantastic Mr. Fox, The Redwall Saga. There are even full-on furry publishing houses like Wolf Press, Fur Planet, and Rabbit Valley. None of the books by these publishers have necessarily been banned, but good luck getting them through customs. Canada, I'm proud to say, does not by and large have a history of banning books, but there is a censor at our border. Due to a long and complicated history, there are all these outdated fees and tariffs and searches between our two nations. This results in most of Sofa Wolf books and other furry literature being stopped right at the border, regardless of their contents. Canada for a long time blocked any books with LGBT themes from entering the country, not because they were necessarily banned, but because our customs decided that they weren't acceptable for Canadian eyes. If this was true today, it would be near impossible to get a copy of Kjell Gold's award-winning LGBT series, Out of Position. If you want to know more about books featuring anthropomorphic characters or books that have a history of being banned, consult your local library. If you want contemporary furry fiction, check out Bookshelf Bear in Canada, or Sofa Wolf Press in the United States, or one of the other publishers we mentioned today. Tell us what your favorite book or story is down in the comments. Culturally Eft is brought to you by the letter E. Get it? Because E comes before F? Get that? No? Alright. Culturally Eft this week was brought to you by these fluffy people who are now all banned. Just banned. If you want more Culturally Eft, please hit subscribe and we will work at putting more fur into your eye and ear balls. Subscribing is also a great way not to get banned. If you have a suggestion for a future episode, please tweet us at Culturally Eft. Next week, we are going to go to the distant future with a special guest, and we're going to look back on motion pictures and animal revolutions. See you then.